MK upper. M Cooper? Cooper? Do E5, I guess. See what kind of game we get. Could be an Italian game. Oh, an old-fashioned Ruy Lopez. I will play the main line for a while here. Castles. And then I diverge by playing the Neo-Archangelsk variation, which allows me to play bishop to C5 instead of bishop E7. Okay, so I believe I can castle here. Oh, but I don't have to castle. I can play this move first, and actually it's a good idea to lend some extra support to the center. So, and now I can castle. And there is a trick he can use to grab a pawn after d5, but they don't usually play that, and it works out okay for black anyway. Oh, so he went ahead and moved his bishop. Well, I want to get this knight out of the way anyway, and it wasn't doing all that much over here. Let's just move it directly to the king side. I mean, the only reason to move it here is to chase his bishop back. The only reason to move it here is to chase his bishop back, and he was fine. But I left it. I left this pawn underdefended when I moved the knight, so I needed to prepare that better. Okay, let's take. So I don't normally like to take because it gives white this big center, but we'll try and undermine it in the classical fashion. Anyway, we unpin. Maybe that was a mistake. Well, if he kicks my knight, I can kick his bishop. Yeah, he's going to do it. So should I take once, or should I could take once, trade queens, and then move the knight too. Yeah, it opens up this diagonal for my bishop. Unpins my knight. And or I could go ahead and kick his bishop, force an exchange here. What's better? Yeah, where can the knight go? The knight can go here. No, the knight cannot go to these squares. Here, here, here. It could go over here. But he could kick it again, and it's not doing much over there. Could go to here. Let's go ahead and do it. Knight on f4 is pretty good. If he decides to kick it, it means he can't really play here. And then my knight defending here means that's a safe square for my knight. Yeah, I might go there anyway. Move this knight here, and then kick the bishop, force an exchange. I have to decide if I want to develop my light squared bishop here or out this way. Where does it go? It looks pretty good here, doesn't it? Pointing at the king side, pointing at that knight. You know what he could do? He could take this knight first. He didn't do it. Let's go ahead and get my knights out of trouble. I think he might have been able to win the knight. He had the sequence, take this knight, I take back with a pawn, and then play here, and then I have no square for it. I can't go to that square anymore, and I can't come back to these. I could kick his bishop with this pawn, I guess. Yeah, I still don't think, even though I can kick the bishop, I still... Oh, if I kick it enough times... Well, now this is interesting because I can take back with the knight. Anyway, we can check that out in the post-mortem there and see if there's a way to save that knight, or if he really could have won a piece there. So now I've got the bishop pair. I have this backwards c pawn, although it's pretty securely defended. I can pile up on the pile up on the e pawn. And move my bishop here, striking down across the center. Looks pretty good. How is he even going to defend this? I was thinking he would defend it with the bishop, but of course I can take the bishop there. Not so easy for him. Yeah, I did that. Right, that doesn't work. You know, I wasn't able to take that pawn right away because my bishop on the back rank meant that he had a checkmate threat on the back rank. Oh, if this knight was in the way and it got exchanged off and the rook came here, yeah, I think that would have been a checkmate. Okay, what are we doing there? We're hitting this pawn, which is defended, and this pawn, which is defended. And I can take here. And now with my bishop out of the way, the rook is defending the back rank, so it's not a problem if he checks me. It just forces an exchange. And his knight is hanging. Yeah, I grabbed a knight. I was going to say, the knight was hanging. It was hanging the move before, too, but I grabbed a knight, so I can only take one piece at a time. The bishop is hanging. I guess there was no way to save it. If he defended the knight, I could still exchange it off and then take the bishop. Yeah, he's threatening mate. So if I put the rook here, and he puts the rook here with check, I can bring this rook back, and then he takes here, I take back, he takes here, I take back. So I believe this defends. I always have trouble seeing this kind of thing because it defends through another rook. Okay, he's going to do something with the knight. Let's go ahead and run. Run all the way to the back rank. Okay, we can just take there. And how's the best way to take advantage of my extra piece? Well, first I'll make some room for my king, some Luft. Then I'll lift up one of my rooks, probably here, to attack this pawn. Yeah. An exchange is good for me. I can't go here. I wanted to move my rook there. But he can just take it, of course. Of course, of course. You know what? I have a passed or an extra pawn on the queen side. I should probably just push it. Put the rook behind the passed pawn. He could have put his rook here, hit my bishop, and when I move the bishop, then and he can take that pawn. He did it. He did it. What's the best way to handle this? I want to get my bishop to this square. But it's not going there easily. Takes 2 moves to get there. So, let's see. If I defend it, he can actually push his A pawn to undermine it because of the pin on the bishop there. Let's just go for the queen. Let him take, yeah, he can take the bishop, but he can't stop the pawn from queening, so he resigned. So let's go to the analysis board. First thing I wanted to check out is somewhere around here. Yeah, right here. He could, normally you like to retreat the bishop. Bishop b6, yeah, just loses a pawn. This is not so great either. So I'm backing up. I shouldn't have played that knight move. What's the move here? The move here is bishop b7. Yeah, go ahead and develop the bishop. Makes sense. Okay, so that was my mistake. So I was a little bit worse after this. And right here, I'm not losing a piece, am I? Am I losing a piece? Yeah, I just take and then trade queens, I guess. So that was all right. Then I went here. And then at this point, I thought he could take my knight. Hey, let's first try and work this out ourselves. Take the knight. I take back. And he kicks this knight and has nowhere to go. I can kick his bishop. And the bishop can just retreat as long as it keeps an eye on this diagonal here. My knight still has nowhere to go. As long as the bishop is covering this square, this is covered. This is occupied, this is occupied. Yeah, looks like I lose a piece there. Let's see, what does the computer say? Computer says there is a way to save it. So if he plays here, oh, this is where I could play here. So what I was suggesting was he takes here first. F takes g6. Now he plays here. Oh, then I take the rook. That's why you take with the F pawn. So you have the rook hitting this knight. Okay, that's cool. So he can't play that. How about he just moves the knight? I mean, my rook, while it's hanging here, while it's sitting here, it's loose. then I can take there. So got too many threats. It looks like that there's no way for him to take advantage of my dangling knight. So I guess that move was okay then after all. So back to the game. Then here. Yeah, was there any way for him to save the bishop? That's the question. No, he's lost here. So what was the losing move? Back it up. So the losing move was bringing that knight, that rook forward. Yeah, it was pointless to try and defend that pawn. And also, say he does here, like the computer suggesting. So, I mean, I am better here. I'm a pawn up, but I can't grab another pawn because he can just take it. And if I take back, then he mates me. But I don't have to take back. It looks like there's a fork here. So it turns out to be about even after all of that. But the upshot is I shouldn't take that pawn. But I have other good moves here. Just kicking the bishop, which is what I wanted to do. Okay, interesting game. Here, let's... was there anything at the end? Before I get the next game going, was there anything at the end? I think I was just winning the whole rest of the way. Yeah, I mean, he did take advantage and won a pawn there, but there was no way to stop this. Yep. Okay, so let's see if we can get another game here. Get a rapid game. Let's try d4. TCO Wong Koi. Oh, he plays a Benoni. I'll go ahead and go for the modern Benoni. I did the move order wrong, actually. I should have brought the c pawn out before I moved the e pawn. Now I can defend the e pawn with my bishop, but then he can sacrifice this pawn and win this one, which is a little annoying. Let's see, what other ways can I defend that pawn? If I defend it with the knight here, it then blocks the c pawn. So I'll defend it with the knight this way. I could have also defended it with the queen, I suppose. But, well, this will be a different position. A different position than usual. At least we have, it's a rapid game, so I'll have time to figure out the weirdnesses here. So I had an idea, which was to bring this knight over to the c3 square, and or maybe to move it to f4. But I think I'm going for a pawn to f4 rather than a knight. So fianchetto, I will keep this unbalanced pawn structure, and just castle here. This pawn is well enough defended. Knight and bishop. So I think this worked out all right. How do I want to deploy the rest of my forces? Knight here is usually a good spot. Puts pressure on the pawn at the base of the pawn chain here, which is a weak pawn, has to be defended by a piece. He's playing a6 to support b5 to prevent my knight from coming there. We can extract a little penalty for when he plays that move. Actually, if he plays it, I can just take because of the pin here. He has this bishop preparing to strike on this diagonal, but at the moment the only target is a pawn, which is defended. I just have to be careful to watch that. Yeah, so now he develops the knight. He needs to develop some pieces so his rook becomes defended. But that gives me a chance to develop this knight with tempo because this pawn is momentarily undefended. Ah, it can take there. Okay, so I take the knight, and then I take here. Yeah, could have thought a little longer on that move. The previous one, I mean. But I think it's okay. I think it's still okay. I've got an isolated pawn here, but he can't put the rook here. He can attack it. Well, I could take the bishop and then move my knight here, which is hitting the rook. Oh, I can take his rook. Now that's a bit of a strange move then. Let's back up and see. Did he have other choices? I took the pawn. He just moved his knight. Yeah, when I took the pawn, I was hitting the rook and hitting the bishop. Let's take that. Take that rook. And yes, now he can grab this pawn, or he could have, but it was more important to grab the knight. Now, what have I got here? Let's move the rook. Question is where? I want to move the rook so that it's not on this diagonal when he takes this pawn, or when I move the pawn. The other thing I'm thinking is if I put the rook here, then it frees up the bishop. But is that really the best square for the rook? I mean, I could also put the rook here. Yeah, then the bishop takes a pawn and hits the rook. But the rook is coming to the center. This is not yet hanging. So if I put the rook here, the bishop here, he takes. And let's just put the rook here. No getting all fancy. So how are we development-wise? My opponent has the bishop pair. Oh, and that's a nice move. Hitting or threatening my rook with some kind of discovery here. And I can't easily threaten that bishop. I cannot. Yeah, normally I'd be able to go here with my knight or here, but this is occupied and this is covered. So embarrassingly, I have to move the rook back, I think. Well, let's leave it there for a move and see where can he go with the knight move. He can go here with a fork, and when I move my rook, he takes this rook. Or go here with a fork, and when I move my queen or take his knight, and he takes this rook. Yeah, got to move it. On the plus side, let's see, I could put my knight here, defending this pawn. Let's do that. Maybe put my queen here, defending this pawn and then move my bishop out. Or queen here, rook here, and over, and queen here. Rook up. Okay, so he's going to do a rook up and over to threaten my pawn. Or is he going to do the rook over to threaten my queen? I'll put the queen there for now. I have to watch this square. Excuse me, this knight coming here. It's an annoying fork. And then I could directly, okay, he just moved the knight away. Well, then I can put the queen somewhere. Yeah, I almost put it in the path of his bishop. Okay, now that's an interesting move. Let's okay, if I attack his bishop, it's defended, so he doesn't have to respond immediately, and he can attack my pawn some more. Let's see, I can move this with tempo. Knight here. Well, he takes with the knight. Knight somewhere else. Maybe knight here. I've had a good knight move. Knight takes pawn. Oh no, his queen's defending the knight. Okay, let's start by kicking his knight. You know, he's going to put the knight here anyway. It's what he wants to do. Let's start by kicking the bishop. This does open up a check from his dark squared bishop. Oh, he pushes the pawn. Yeah, it's true. I have to keep this defended. If I'm not careful, I can get into trouble. Let's see, I can attack the bishop here. Didn't want to block in that bishop, my bishop, that way, but he can grab the pawn. I'll take his bishop. Oh, actually, I can't do that. He puts his bishop here. Well, it depends. He can't put the bishop there right now, but if he takes and I take and queen takes, he will be threatening bishop here. So I have to be sure that I have enough time to deal with that. I have the check. Okay, I can move my queen with check. There's this nasty skewer waiting to happen. Yeah, he goes for it. Okay, so knight takes bishop, queen takes knight, and then queen here check. Actually, I can take this knight. I can take this knight because I got bishop and queen on it. Ooh, this is all right for me then. He can't take here yet, just yet. Okay, that was a tricky sequence. I didn't see all the complications there. think this is good for me. I did see earlier that the knight was weak, and I was trying to do something about it. Okay, so let's get my bishop off the back rank. Protect my king from the check. Let him take this pawn. I'm going to put a rook here. Well, I should just take his rook if he's going to play that. Looks like he kind of lost the thread there. And he resigned. Here, let's go to the analysis board. Back up. This was, let's go to the beginning. I liked it when I did that last time. This is a normal Benoni, but the normal move here, I don't know what the computer recommends, but the normal move here is c5. Looks like the computer likes knight c3. Anyway, it likes this position for white because it's a big center. Doesn't like that move so much, probably. Oh, still likes it. So I did this weird deployment with my pieces. Back to the beginning, sorry. Let's see what the computer thinks after a couple of moves here. Yeah, what does it think of this position? Thinks it's about even. Yeah, I was playing kind of weird stuff here. Because I was a little thrown because I moved the e-pawn first instead of the c-pawn. When you move the c-pawn first, then this knight here naturally comes to this square. I was trying to arrange it so the other knight could get to that square, as an option at least. Looks like it's about even though. So, I mean, it was bad, but not horrible. It's just I had better. And then, okay here. Yeah, let's ask about this. What does it think of this move? So I should play some pawn move or knight there to defend the pawns. When I go here, it's not such a huge swing. Yeah, because of this. In fact, that's good for me. Oh no, it's good for black. Was there something better? Instead of taking the knight and grabbing the pawn back, it's even better to play queen c2. Because what does he do then? I thought he would just bring the knight back, and he's just a pawn up. Oh, and then I still get to grab the pawn. So it's a better version of the game if I get my queen to c2, defending this pawn on b2. So a nice extra move there. And then here, yeah, he's better. He's got this active rook. If he finds something useful to do with it, it looks like the chess engine likes rook to this square. But instead of doing something useful with the rook, he moved the knight to introduce this discovered attack on my knight. But it doesn't matter because he left his rook hanging. And so I was just better from this point. And I didn't always play the best moves. Yeah, that was like a wasted move. Did I have anything else I could try here? I could develop my bishop or move the rook. Yeah, developing the bishop is asking for trouble. I guess sacrificing the knight to gain a rook is not good because the rook is defended, so that's not actually working. c4, just push the c-pawn. Okay, so that wasn't as bad as I thought. Let's get back to that point. Let's turn it off. So maybe I didn't even have to do this, because if he has to sacrifice the knight... Oh, that's the point of moving the bishop. Yeah, the way it stands now with the bishop in the way, he can sacrifice the knight and win a whole rook. But when the bishop is out of the way, and when he sacrifices knight, he's only winning the exchange. And that's a big difference. That's not good for him. So I didn't have to rush back, but I did. But I maintain my material advantage here. And does he have something here? Ah, it likes my f3 move. Came out with that right away. Yeah, it looks like f3 is the only move here. Yeah, it was this was a difficult position because he is threatening to put the knight here, and then my king will be on a square that is where there's a discovered attack. So that was very dangerous. And so fortunately for me, I stuck to it long enough to find the move f3, which was a logical move to stop that. And then when he chases me around, this doesn't work. And yeah, so when he pushed the pawn, I guess we can look at this in the mirror. So I with the engine on, I played f3. He pushed a pawn. I moved the queen. Queen d1 is the only move that keeps an advantage. Yeah, but you got to hold on to this pawn. It's saying he should sacrifice, give up 2 pieces for the rook. But instead he took this pawn. Oh, now that queen d1. I didn't play the only move. Queen d1 was the only move to keep an advantage. Not a move I thought of. So when I play here, he has the ability to sacrifice this. I would have taken here, so let's see what the problem is. What is the problem? Oh, the problem is that he's got this now. But it's not defended there. Oh, but it is kind of defended. It's defended by this knight fork. Now that is a very clever move. If he had found that one, I would have been really impressed. So we can take here. It's justified by the fork. He takes. I take with the rook. He doesn't take back right away, but just plays the other bishop here to skewer the queen and the king. I take there. And then he takes back with the knight, and it's a fork of my queen and king. Yeah, very tricky. It's a combination exploiting this pin, skewer, whatever you want to call it, and this fork. Very interesting. And if I play it right and he plays it right, then it just is even after that. But he took here, and then I'm just winning after here, right? Knight takes d5 is the right move. He took back. And then queen takes g5 is the right move. Yeah, he loses both pieces. So I'm a whole rook up here. And yeah, he just gave away a rook at the end. Okay, interesting games. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.